Hello, everyone. This is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today, our guest is Chris Mecate, who will fight on LFA 208 May 9th. Hello, Chris. How are you? In just about a little bit more than a week, you will be fighting against a really interesting opponent. It will be Javier Reyes, who got a lot of experience. And if you can tell me, what do you think about this fight, and what should be next for you after this fight?
Yeah, so I've been getting prepared for a while now. This idea got floated a few months ago, and I know there was some visa problems, so I'm glad the fight finally finalized. But yeah, he's a good opponent. He's dangerous everywhere. He's on his feet. He has some things he throws on the ground. He has a kind of chaotic pressure pace. So we've been preparing for him, and then I'm looking forward to the fight. And I know I was actually just glad the guy took the fight. And me and him are both kind of in that same range of trying to get to the next level. So, two game Rooster is about to go in there and get our scrap on. So I'm excited for it. I know he's going to bring it. And then I can promise you I'm going to bring it too. So it's going to be a good fight. And then afterwards, we'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of victory it is and how it looks. And then hopefully, bigger and better things after. But I got to go in there and make sure I take care of business first.
But this will be a lightweight bout.
No, it's a catchweight bout. It's at 150.
And is it like specific reason for this? Because even I saw on the Instagram that it was a lightweight, and both are like featherweights.
Yeah, no, the fight's at 150. It's a catchweight bout because there were some things that got sorted, but there were some issues with the commission over going down a certain weight class, and in California they're pretty stringent on cutting weight. So there were some issues with California letting both of us fight at 145, so they made it 150 for the commission.
And overall, I think that you have this kind of like even amazing experience because you fought against like really, really many great fighters. You beat like Jose Delgado, who is like big prospect right now in the UFC, Jay Perrin, who was a UFC veteran. So it's like you fought against who is who. In like regional MMA, and you fought for many promotions. And if you can tell me what promotion, what was which was like best for you?
They're all they all have their own interesting things because, like you said, I fought for a bunch of promotions, and my last fight I had was Santana for LFA. The last knockout I got was my first fight in California anywhere near my hometown. So all my fights, all my promotions, I've pretty much been the out of town guy coming into town, and been kind of pretty much brought there to not be victorious. So it's always an interesting thing when you're the out of town guy. So the promotions have been great. Just to me, honestly, just because I've been competing my whole life, that stuff like how they treat you, and I could care less. I want to get in there, make sure I get a fight in that cage, and I get my check afterwards. So some of them were nicer, some of them were a little bit less nice, but to me it doesn't matter. I got in the cage and got after it. So all the promotions have been cool, but yeah, I'm the out of town guy that they bring in. So I'm never the guy they really want to win. So I'll just keep it at that.
And of course, you have this like long wrestling background. You were a wrestler for a long time. And if you can tell me how your journey with wrestling started.
I started when I was in first grade. It was just a matter of chance. My dad was reading the newspaper, and then there was an article about a kid who was like a wrestling champ. And then my dad didn't even know they had wrestling for kids, and I didn't really even know what wrestling was. But I was playing other sports. My dad was like my baseball coach. I did a YMCA basketball, I want to do hockey, just doing random sports. And I was like, oh, wrestling. And the kid was in the newspaper. I'm like, oh, what's that about? And so my dad actually found a club that was somewhat local, and it ended up being that same club of that kid who was in the newspaper. And we ended up signing up for the wrestling club. And then, I wasn't a natural. I wasn't gifted at it by any means. But, what you do like about it is wrestling is one of those sports where you get out what you put in. So, I was able to see progress pretty quick just because I was a pretty good student and pretty good learner. So, I started when I was young in first grade, and then by the time I was around fourth, fifth grade, I was pretty good, one of the better kids in the country. So I stayed on that journey for a while, and yeah, went to high school as a state champ. Went to wrestle Division I in college. I was a two-time Division I All-American, and that kind of forged me mentally and physically, I think, for my MMA preparation, which you better be pretty physically fit and mentally tough. So I think the wrestling was a good prep for me for my fight journey.
Yes, it's probably the best base for like going to MMA. So when you can decide whether the fight will be standing or on the ground, it's probably the best tool that you can have.
I think I agree with you technically as a skill set for a tool, 100%. But I think one of the things that people don't think about or talk about, or just maybe aren't aware of, is like a Division I wrestling system is very, very, very highly. The training is very high level, and it's done at a volume that there's no really other sports that they do it at, where it's such a long season and you're training twice a day, every day while going to class at a high level, making weight twice a week, competing at a high level. So I think some of the things that people don't talk about maybe are how it forges you mentally of grinding through practice, grinding through camps, getting up, doing the little things that you think your opponent's not doing. And so I think sometimes, and it's just more just because the intensity is higher than most other sports that even I've been around or seen. So I think that's something that people don't talk about is actually the mental part of it, how you're just raised to push through injuries, taught that, excuses don't matter. You got to find a way to win. And it kind of breeds a little bit of a mental thing in you as well that I think on top of the physical stuff, determining where the fight goes, take him down or keep standing. But yeah, I agree.
And how do you feel about your striking? Because like you started more of the like a wrestler type, and of course you have this right now kind of big experience for MMA fighter. But how do you see your like progress in striking?
I think I've progressed a lot in striking, and I got with my striking coach Austin Algren, and me and him have just been really good at speaking the same language. He's helped me a lot with my striking and just understanding the system of striking that I have, where before I was maybe just kind of throwing strikes with no real why behind it. And now I have a why behind it, and I know my angles and I know what stances to strike from, and when they switch stances, which ones to go from. So, my striking, I think, has improved a lot. And it's one of those things that I just got to go out there and show people. But if you're in the gym around me or you're watching those training sessions, I think most people would be honestly probably pretty surprised. But that's something I got to, save. And when I get out to the cage, show people.
But also you train with like some of the best fighters possibly, of course, from the UFC, like outside of the UFC. So probably it's like easy to develop your like even like whole arsenal of your tools because you train with the one of the best teams actually.
Yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's awesome because like I said, I go train with my coach, working on my striking stuff, different combos, different tactics, and then that same day or the next day, I get to go and try it out. And then you got Cub Swanson in the room watching over everyone and hopping in there for rounds, and they'll give you a quick and immediate like, hey, this works, this doesn't work, check it out, and an immediate game time response to all the things you've been working on. So yeah, absolutely, that's the best way. You try it, you learn something, and then you go and have the partners to try it on, and it's an immediate, hey, this works or this does not work. You'll know immediately. So exactly.
And you mentioned quite Swanson, who of course is a legend of the sport. He is a Hall of Famer. But what it's like your favorite like fight or the moment from his career?
Repeat that question again.
What is like the favorite fight or favorite moment from Cap Swanson career?
Favorite moment of his career? Well, this is actually a thing that not everyone knows, but Cub obviously knows. But in my opinion, one of my favorite Cub Swanson fights was back in WEC against Macken's Semerzier. And if you're a big real fan, you've seen that fight. It's a banger fight. And Macken's Semerzier was actually my first MMA coach when I was living in. I got done competing in wrestling. I was living in Virginia, and I found Mackins. He was the only UFC fighter in the, I mean, damn near the whole state, and he was kind of local. So I found him, and me and him worked together for years while I was out there before I came to California and got with Cub. So I liked that. My first MMA coach was Mackin Semerzier, who then, when I left Virginia, came back to California. I worked with Cub, and if you watch those two guys fight, I recommend anyone to watch Cub Swanson versus Mackin Semerzier, and both those guys ended up being my coaches. And when I fought in Miami, Cub flew out there to corner me, so I fought there. And then Mackins came out and watched the fight. So Mackins and Cub ran into each other again and talked, and then yeah, they're cool with each other. So I thought that was cool. I'm like, yeah. And then if you watch that fight, it's a banger. I recommend Cub Swanson versus Mackin Semerzier. And to me, it means a lot just because both those guys were ended up being my coaches. So I kind of like that.
You see, it's definitely a great story, and of course, WEC had a lot of like great fights because it was usually like from lightweight to bantamweight,
Exactly.
at least in this like last 2 or 3 years, and these kind of fights were like usually some really great and exciting fights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that's my favorite one just because it's sentimental value to me. Both those guys end up kind of mentoring me and coaching me. So I love that fight.
And for now, who is your favorite fighter to watch? Of course, like outside of your like training partners, but the fighters that you like to watch from like fans' perspective.
Yeah, so that's it. I like, like I've told people because people are like, who's your favorite? I'm like, to be honest, I don't watch it. I mean, I am a fan of the sport, but when you're competing in it, you always have a little bit of a different shade of watching it, right? Like I'm watching it for technique and strategy and like, oh, this guy does stuff I want to do or I like. And for me, honestly, one of the guys I like watching more as a fighter and like to use their techniques and see their strategy. I love watching Coach Gon. I like how he blends his striking and I think he has underestimated grappling prowess. I like a lot of his takedowns. I like his style on his feet, how he strikes, how he cuts people off. So yeah, I like watching Peter Yan. I like watching how he does his thing. And he's super technical, but he's brutal in there too. And that's kind of something that I'm trying to emulate when I'm in the cage, being high IQ, smarter than the guy, outthink the guy, but also at the same time, you are in a fight and brutality and violence matter. So I'm trying to do that as well. Be very technical, but also brutal at the same time.
And outside of the sport, do you have any like let's say goals outside of the sport that you would like to accomplish in the next few years when you are an MMA fighter?
Could you repeat that again? You cut out a little bit.
Yes, do you have like goals outside of the sport that you would like to accomplish in next few years?
Yeah, I got some things I'm thinking about, but to be honest, I'm so in and obsessed, and 99.9% of all my thoughts come back to fighting. So a lot of these goals I have financially, my future, where I see myself somehow tied in with fighting. So to be honest, it all comes back to a lot of me expressing myself and going all in on my fight career. And I just know that, if I go full all in on fighting and really use everything I have, my mind, body, spirit, that these other goals I have and things I want to do, if I go all out in fighting, they'll happen in the other fields as well. So to be honest, I get what you're saying, but where I'm at right now in my life and my journey, the other things I'm not even thinking about, if I'm just being honest with you. So that's where my mind's at right now.
And after like the tough sparring or training session, let's say in the evening when you have maybe some few hours of free time, do you like to watch something, read something? How do you like relax your body and mind, of course?
It's funny you say that because I'm a little, well, I commute a little bit to where I train out with the guys in Orange County, but I gotta tell my coaches, my my favorite part is when I get done training at night. It's about an hour drive back to where I live, and I'll just drive, no music, no podcast, nothing, and I just listen to my own psyche. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people are like, "That's insane. You're crazy," which they might be right. But to me, honestly, those are the best. Some of my biggest insights, and really course correcting in my own life and making sure I'm on the correct path. They happen in that hour drive with no music, nothing. I'm just thinking, going through my thought, and I try to not consume anything. I try to just, okay, what's your mind telling you? And so I know that's a crazy answer, but to be honest, those are my favorite times. But outside of that, I'm more of, I like listening to podcasts. I'm not a big TV person. I don't have one in my room. I rarely watch TV. I just don't have time. But I like to listen to podcast stuff, more comedy oriented, just to keep it a little bit light. But being completely honest with you, driving, commuting, no music, no podcasts, just me time, being my own therapist, I guess you would say.
Yes, but I think that is great when you don't have this any like of this external things anything, just your mind, and there are like sometimes great ideas that can came to your mind
Exactly.
when
Exactly.
you, yes, when you are not too busy. But I think that it's like when you are driving, it would be hard. But sometimes it's good to note this kind of things on the like piece of paper or something like this to not to forget if it's like a really good idea, because sometimes it can be like forgotten when you have like many thoughts.
Absolutely. You get it. You get it.
And I have one last question, because before in your fights you had like very long hair for MMA fighter, and if you can tell me what happened, what is like the story behind like cutting them?
Well, it's not as cool as people, because a few people have asked me. I'm like, I wish I had a cooler story, but I was actually, my last fight in LFA, it was a short notice fight. So I didn't have like much time to prepare getting my weight down. And so it was short notice. I was pretty heavy, but make it cutting weight. And I was, pretty sucked out at the very end there. And then so, I was 0.6 over from the weight. And then, but I was pretty, like I said, sucked out weight wise. And then so we go back to the hotel room and we're trying to decide, like, what do I do? Can't go in the sauna. Like I have no more water left. And then, they're like, what about your hair? And I was like, is it 0.6? And then they're like, they grabbed it. One of my teammates grabbed it. He's like, yeah, I think it's 0.6. And I literally said, screw it, shave it off. If it's going to help me make weight, because I can't do anything. I was pretty sucked out. And so I was like, shave my head, go back. We find some razors, or some clippers, shave the head off. And then we go, and I'm 146 on the dot, make weight. So my hair was exactly 0.6. And it helped me make weight. And then, which was a good thing because I won the fight, obviously. So I got the check, I got the winning part, and then I got the bonus for the knockout of the night or performance of the night, whatever they call it. So if I didn't make weight, I wouldn't have got any of those. So I was like, all right, it was worth it. Got the win, got the knockout, and the bonus, and it was right before Christmas. So yeah, it was a good move looking back.
Yes, so like losing your hair for a good amount of money, it's like a
Yeah,
kind of good deal.
it was, and it was like, okay, it's time for a change. Shave it off and something new. And the biggest thing I noticed was I was like, damn, I didn't realize how cold it was. Once you shave your head, you're like, oh man, my scalp is to the world. I'm like, it's kind of cold. I didn't realize how much hair I had, kept my head warm. But yeah, I like it. It's just, zero nuisance with training, but I get the long hair too. You do feel kind of a little bit more, I don't know, primal. Primal is the right word, but a little bit more wild man. But I like the shaved head now too. I'm keeping it short for a while, so we'll see how long this lasts.
Okay, Chris, so many thanks for the conversation. I think that your fight against Javier would be like a very good one, and I think that with a win, it's like it has to happen. You should get like at least contender series shot, but I think that with your resume, it's like no question about it.
Right on. Yeah. So, and like I said, that's ideal, but you know what? I can't put energy into that. Can't focus on that because I can't control that. I can just control, my effort and my performance. And I just know if I'm as technical and as brutal as possible in the cage and for my performances, then I just know good things will happen. But yeah, I appreciate that.